and welcome everybody to today's panel session after Iago's talk on Bitcoin OS. The panel is also going to be on Bitcoin, especially scaling Bitcoin and Bitcoin's ecosystem beyond store of value. Now, of course, it's exciting to have such a panel on the day after Bitcoin has reached another historical all-time high. And thank you all for being here, and probably thanks to all of you that are working hard every day on pushing Bitcoin, but pushing the Bitcoin ecosystem, and also the ones in the room here that do so. It's a detriment to that. So thank you all first for that. When I was thinking about this panel yesterday and preparing it, I was thinking about what was a moment that I remember when I think about Bitcoin. And of course, I could talk about the day that I discovered this Bitcoin or bought or sold some Bitcoin. But one of the things that I remembered was the early discussions on Bitcoin, on how to scale Bitcoin, on the block size, and especially the day Bitcoin Cash fork happened. I was at the university. I was looking at one of these websites where they tracked which fork actually gets which blocks and how many miners are mining on which chain. And seeing this live is probably one of the things that I will always remember. And then I checked when that happened. It was 2017. So more than 7 years ago. And there's so many things that happened since then. And if you look at where Bitcoin is today, we have companies that hold Bitcoin on their balance sheets. We have countries that hold Bitcoin in their treasuries. And now with the US presidency, we might even see something like a Bitcoin reserve program. So a lot of things have already been achieved, but now today the topic will be how can we grow even beyond that. So I'm excited to have 4 panelists here on stage, and I want to kick it off with a short round of introductions. I would ask you to keep those pretty short, 2-3 sentences on who you are, what you're working on, and then give the mic to the next person so that we can discuss all the hot takes and the other stuff that we want to discuss.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Kyle. I am the executive director for the Stacks Asia Foundation, and also an advising partner to Bitcoin Frontier Fund, and as of recently was one of the largest investors in companies building on Bitcoin as well.
Hi, I'm Clayton. I'm at Babylon Labs. I'm the head of BD there. Babylon is staking security and liquidity protocol built on the Bitcoin network.
Hey guys, I'm Han. I'm the co-founder and CEO of BitFi. BitFi is a CDFi platform building Bitcoin ecosystem, and we're the first one to introduce an LC token that has BTC yield bearing property. And we currently have about 3,000 Bitcoin and launching mainnet next month. Happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Iago. I'm working on Bitcoin OS, the ability to verify any computation, scaling, and kind of everything I just discussed. So I won't belabor the point. Thank you.
Cool, thank you. So let's talk a bit about so Bitcoin has historically been, or still is, as a store of value. Now we can add different kind of utilities to Bitcoin, and maybe it would be interesting from your perspective, the project that you're working on, what kind of utility do you add to Bitcoin specifically, and why do you think that this is important? Maybe we can start from the other side and go with Iago first.
Yeah. So my overall view is that Bitcoin is kind of like, so I sometimes compare it to the way Einstein thought about relativity, right? Einstein first came out with the special theory of relativity, which was, limited to how time and space are relative when things are moving very, very fast. And then later he came out with the general theory of relativity, which, encapsulated everything in the universe. I think you could think about BTC as the special theory of ownership, a special theory of crypto ownership, how you can own a specific asset on a distributed, decentralized ledger so that it's actually an asset that you can own forever yourself. And the big challenge for us now is to apply that more generally, right? To basically not just have that ledger have BTC, but have any assets, from stable coins to many, many different types of tokens and real world assets. And we've currently tried to do that by introducing many, 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 many different ledgers, which obviously breaks composability, causes a huge amount of tribalism, and just generally, I think, is a confusion to both us and everyone else. And so what we're trying to do is make it really simple to take those really cool systems, Ethereum, Cardano, rollups, etc., use them for what they're really, really good at, which is computation as computation environments, and then utilize Bitcoin as a shared ledger for the world.
Well, I think I really like your analogy on the relativity part. And for me, from BitFi, since it's a CDFI platform, so for me, the utility for Bitcoin comes from its ability to generate yields for the users. I think this traditionally has been a challenging perspective, given that the Bitcoin security model is very simple. It doesn't have a full expressiveness in terms of the scripting language, so it's really hard to generate yield. So for me, in order to expand or to best mobilize Bitcoin's utility is to really understand the ultimate source of yields that can be generated from Bitcoin. And for me, I think there's two. Number one is very simple. It's Bitcoin's financial value, right? Its attributes as a asset to be traded, running all kinds of strategies, and that's the CeFi part of the BFI, CDFI system. I think this is inevitable, and this is very straightforward. You get you directly from from the system. And I think the second part is its utility as a cryptocurrency, right? I think this comes to the general hot topic this year about Bitcoin ecosystem. Like, what can we do with Bitcoin except for, like Claude mentioned, its value as a value storage system. So for that aspect, I think it's really important. I'm really glad to see that Bitcoin ecosystem projects grow this year. Right? We're seeing more and more potential applications of Bitcoin, right? So, for example, Babylon, for example, I think I actually read the Babylon's white paper very comprehensively. I'm really thrilled about the idea. I think if that's implemented successfully, I think that's going to be a revolutionary step for Bitcoin. I think that will open doors for a lot of utility in terms of DeFi, right? I think for DeFi, it's all about efficiency. So how can we really have the flow of value, the flow of Bitcoin across the system, and as utility or as just pure value, right? So yeah, for me, I think that's my take. That's my 2 cents on this.
Yeah, I think historically, at least from a purely technical perspective, the only real native use case is send receive for Bitcoin. When you think of store of value, that requires off-chain consensus. Like everyone has to agree that it's a store of value, which then results in them holding it longer. But outside of that, if seeing store of value and send receive as the 2 native use cases for Bitcoin, historically, Babylon is trying to create the 3rd native use case, which is staking. So we have built our staking design natively on the Bitcoin network, which unlocks the ability to move that Bitcoin elsewhere, as well as provide additional security guarantees to folks who want to leverage the asset of Bitcoin for their own protocols. So in terms of utility that at least Babylon is providing, right? We're effectively creating the staking layer, and what does that unlock? That extends the security guarantees of Bitcoin through the value of BTC as an asset beyond the native layer of Bitcoin, and then it also allows people to build receipt tokens on top of that, right? So acknowledging that you can only do send receive transactions on the Bitcoin network. Obviously, there's a lot more exotic things that you would want to do with that asset on decentralized rails compared to centralized protocols. I mean, we all saw the problems with lending out on companies like BlockFi in the past, and so Compound and Aave are much more robust than those companies, and those didn't fail, right? So how can we create markets that are effectively DeFi markets for Bitcoin? You need to have some sort of locking function to validate that it exists on the Bitcoin network. But where that activity happens, right, can be pretty much anywhere. And I think everyone on this panel is actively building around that. But at the same time, I think the simplicity in design and the fact that staking is just coming and then locking and liquidity is coming, it makes sense that it's happening this year as opposed to the past. Being slow is actually good. But yeah. I think utility is moving very, very quickly.
Yeah, I'll just try to fill in some of the things that might not have been said by the other panelists, as all the points were very valid and on point to where we are in this current era of Bitcoin, which is unlocking utility. For us on the stack side, but just more generally, outside of staking, we also are starting to see more of an effort around tokenized Bitcoin and being able to bring Bitcoin from the L1 into the application layer. So whether that is through staking or whether that is through a number of opportunities, whether it be RWAs, whether it be borrow, lending, and yielding, there's so much potential. We're starting to see shift. We went from only about 2 or 3 active assets to now over 20 different assets and growing in different respected ecosystems to, again, allow for individuals to move their Bitcoin, which is important in this current time frame. To Clayton's point is that we've got 47 million active wallets today, unique, with more than $1 of Bitcoin in them. And maybe even more today based on the new all-time highs that was mentioned as well. So those individuals may want to begin to do something with that Bitcoin rather than just hold it previously as a store of value, but instead earn or yield or engage in with some kind of application or, again, DeFi as well. And then on the Rails side, to a point Yago, I believe, made in summary, it is the most stable and secure. It has been there, the tried and true. It has been there for over 15 years. And it also has been the most stable and also technically advanced based on some of the upgrades that we've seen as well. That deployment, that upgrade, that focus on it has kept it that way. And now we're starting to see a lot of focus wanting to leverage that. And whether that be those of us who've been building in this industry for almost a decade in some cases, to a lot of some of the biggest names in this industry now pulling and building around Bitcoin as an asset as well.
I think one of the big shifts that has occurred, right? Why are so many people looking to build on Bitcoin now? Is because for a long time there was this belief that you could compete with Bitcoin, that you were going to flip in Bitcoin, right? And as more and more time has passed, it's become increasingly apparent that that's not going to happen. And I think probably the final nail in the coffin was that the one chain that came anywhere close, which was Ethereum, is no longer even in the race. The race it's currently in is trying to survive versus Solana, which is like, I mean, if Ethereum ends up competing with Solana rather than competing with Bitcoin, I think that was a strong signal to the entire industry. Bitcoin's just here to stay.
And the amount of infrastructure development that has happened, right? We all know Ordinals launched in January 2023. It's done. We've said it. Since then, and even years previous, the amount of work that has gone into trying to open up or unlock Bitcoin as a rail has been a drastic amount. We can each say here on stage how much we've put in or our respected ecosystems have. In the last 11 months, the amount of development, amount of crossover, what worked in Ethereum or EVM that has now come to Bitcoin, and we've seen its potential to work at a small scale and then growing now, also I think adds to that unlock of, wait a second, if we've got $1 trillion or almost $2 trillion now in market cap value here that can turn on overnight, and we have infrastructure that proves to work at a scale and grows, maybe there is something more we can in fact do here. Let's actually leverage this as the root of all of this and how it began.
Yeah, I fully agree to all of that. So many great points already mentioned, but what I now want to do is that all the panelists here, they have been asked to bring a hot take here to the panel. And maybe we start with you again here. What is your hot take? And I invite the others to directly then comment on this hot take, and we discuss the ones that you brought with as well.
Starting with me, my hot take?
Yes.
Oh, wow. I've got a few of them. I think the first and foremost, we don't truly know the infrastructure that we need to build yet to allow for this trillions of dollars and growing to really hit at any point of scale that we're able to talk about today. 47 million active wallets. We do not have 47 million active wallets ready to work on the infrastructure that we have built across the Bitcoin ecosystem today. Much of what all of us and many other projects have built have come in the last few years, but more importantly, the last 11 months. There's a lot of effort and a lot of design still to be put in place. I mean, Yago, for instance, launched the very first verified ZK proof only a few months ago, right? It was July. There's so much more ahead of us that we need to put in place. And I think gaps we still need to fill in the infrastructure, which is exciting as opportunity, but we've still got a little bit of ways to go.
Yeah, I mean, I can get spicier maybe later, but like, that wasn't spicy enough, so I'm not gonna like.
Fair.
I mean, I think the interesting thing to your point though is like everyone is learning about this now all at the same time, to where it's a little less weird. Like I used to work at Figment, which is a staking provider, and like we supported like a lot of like 60 plus network launches over the span of 4 years when I was there. There were OGs that understood like the programmability and like, this and this and this. And like, it was a lot of explaining like, just outwardly, where like now everyone here is like all explaining everything together at the same time, to where like, custodians are learning about it, wallets are learning about it. The protocol that's building like, the functionality is also actively learning about it as well. So it's like very much a coordinated effort, I think, compared to at least, other proof of stake protocol launches in the past, or like rollups launching, where it's like, I know everything and like, you better come here or not. It's like everyone is like actively sharing in a way that really feels like, I don't know, like Ethereum in 2016 or 2017, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I think I agree with Kyle that it's still early, what people are trying to do with the Bitcoin ecosystem. But I don't fully agree that with a statement that we don't know what it takes. Right? I think a lot of what's being built in the Bitcoin ecosystem is to be able to replicate, maybe in a better way, what the other ecosystem or protocols have done before. Those who were natively built with a Turing-complete language that made everything easy. Of course, it comes with natural vulnerability to security, but Bitcoin doesn't have that. But then Bitcoin doesn't have a lot of benefits with it as well. But I think we know what we want to do with them. For example, introducing proof of stake, to Bitcoin and making sure that it works. Right, because we've seen that work before in other ecosystems, but I think what we do not know for sure is, when we can get there, and once we get there, what kind of traction are we going to get, and what kind of implication is going to have on Bitcoin. The reason why I say that is because, for example, I think everyone is pretty happy these days, past few days, about Bitcoin price movement, right? The Bitcoin price didn't move because, well, as much as I would like to say it's because of the Bitcoin ecosystem improvement, it's not, right? It's because there's change in political landscape. There's a lot of upside potential. Then there's a lot of FOMO, right? So of course will indirectly or directly help with growth and more a resource put into the Bitcoin ecosystem development, but it's not the main reason that's happening, right? So I think what I personally do want to see a lot of this ecosystem being built and see applications getting built on them. But I think we really don't know, where that will bring us. But it's definitely gonna be a step in the right direction, and I hope to see that, become the next pillar stone for the next bull market, whatever. But I think we need to see. We need to wait and see. Yeah.
Maybe to jump in here quickly. I mean, Clayton, what you mentioned is really interesting, right? And you also said we are very early, and it feels like in Ethereum in 2016, and sometimes it feels also like that to me. But the challenge that I then want to make is that early Ethereum, everything was kind of exciting. There were not so many players yet. Everything was very collaborative. We had to find solutions to big problems, so we were trying to work together. But as soon as these solutions became better and it became more competitive, it then also became more challenging to actually fight against each other. And it actually ultimately took maybe 3 or 4 years for the first applications to become really big. So the question that I'm asking, are we not now, is Bitcoin or the Bitcoin ecosystem not Ethereum in 2016?
Well, I mean, 2016, 2017 was maybe the best time to be investing in anything
That's
ever.
true. Yeah.
Full stop, right? So, holy shit, yes, I hope so. In fact, one of my hot takes is that I think one of the best things we can do right now is bring back ICOs. Right? I want to bring back ICOs, but this time on a 2 orders of magnitude larger scale. Right? At the time that the ICO market was running on Ethereum it started with a sub $1 billion market cap. Bitcoin had a $16 billion market cap. Right? We are 100 times larger now. So we're going to see, and this is one of our goals with Bitcoin OS, right? Stay tuned, because we're going to bring back ICOs in an order of magnitude that you guys have never seen, the largest wealth creation opportunity in the world. I think this is exactly the thing, right? What you were saying, we're all early to Bitcoin again. That is literally true. everything, as bullish as we all thought we were, like we thought, we're building digital gold. That's maybe, I don't know, $20-40 trillion market cap. If we're replacing the entire financial ecosystem and we're basically rewriting the plumbing of ownership, I don't know, what is that, a $1 quadrillion market? So, no one's bullish enough would be what my hot take.
I guess no one on the panel here will not respond positive to that.
I've got a lot of other ones.
Okay, yeah.
Positive. I'll respond positive. I agree with it.
Yeah.
I mean, he already knows the data because I gave it to him the other day on a different panel. But I mean, in the last year to date, I'll be generous. So from December to now, December 23 to now, the entire TVL activity on Bitcoin went up over 4x. I mean, we went from and that's even an understatement. We went from 300 million to now over $4 billion in TVL activity on the Bitcoin space. Before this massive surge in price, that represented over 0.25% of the entire market cap of Bitcoin. That's how early we are. And if we take the same ratio of what we see at TVL on Ethereum and it to its market cap, which is about 12 to 16% roughly, we have a $280 billion opportunity sitting right now being built on Bitcoin. I completely agree with Yago that spicy take is on point. We're not bullish enough, and the opportunities are sitting in front of us. They're not vaporware; they're there.
I mean, I think if you look at one way which I think we have described our industry correctly is it's like we're building the internet of value, right? The internet of ownership. And if you look at the internet really started taking off, sort of from a commercial perspective, just at the beginning of the 20th century, right? Let's call it the year 2000. It was a big bubble, all kinds of nonsense, and it crashed and people got down to work. It took 19 years for the first business that was built on the internet to become a multi-trillion-dollar business, right? Within the next 4 years, another 4 businesses became multi-trillion-dollar businesses. Now, the thing is, we don't know how much the internet is worth, but we do know how much Bitcoin is worth. And we also can probably assume that the internet of value is worth more than the internet of advertising. And so I think another hot take I have is, I'm sitting here with a bunch of maxis. I'm maybe the most maxi of them all. But I actually think that there's huge opportunity out there for some legacy players like XRP, right? Cardano, the most hated projects in the world, because the game is pivoting now entirely. The question becomes, are you going to be a really, really strong complementary layer? And do you have something very, very significant to add, right? So Cardano is a smart contract system which is built on UTXOs. It is really, really well positioned in a way that, Avalanche isn't, to take advantage of a Bitcoin world. Ripple have spent the last 13 years building banking relationships and fighting the SEC so that they're probably more, from a regulatory perspective, in the clear than anyone else. And they can take advantage of this turn to Bitcoin in some ways that other people can't. And so maybe my hot take here is that the project that is least well, actually this is probably just my most consensus take. The project least well positioned right now is Ethereum.
Yeah, this is definitely a hot take depending on where you mention it.
I think that's my consensus take.
Maybe since you all are very bullish and basically there's no better day than today to build on Bitcoin. What is, do you think, one of the things or the problems or the challenges that you urgently need to solve or first need to solve to make these visions come true? What is something that is burning right now or that you think is crucial to be done?
I mean, to not give a super boring answer, but it's ultimately just the re-education process of institutions again for a new thing, right? Where you do have ETH as an asset that's being held and staked by a large amount of players that will be public or not public about their positions and actively doing things on C5 rails with that asset but it's very limited in terms of the activity compared to other assets. So the good thing is that we've done all of this maybe sometimes super quick and dirty for other assets in terms of usability and like what you can do with it on decentralized rails. So there is some like, understanding of what this means for Bitcoin network and Bitcoin as an asset. But also it's scarier, right? Because it's like, no, I don't want to lose my store of value, which like really to your hot take about like Ethereum being in the middle, right? It's like if Solana's fast and Bitcoin is a store of value, like Ethereum definitely doesn't feel as much as a store of value for someone like a Fidelity. I mean, like Fidelity's not doing anything on DeFi at all, but like, there's much more like willingness to move and take risk with Ethereum to where like Bitcoin is like, that's going to take a couple years, I think, for like, understanding like what staking is, understanding what like DeFi rails are for Bitcoin, where it didn't take as long from my perspective.
And I'll add not just mindset for institutions, but for everybody. I mean, again, we go back to that 47 million and rising number. We offer them staking, we offer them DeFi, we offer them yield, we offer them, tokenized Bitcoin to move it. That is an entire mindset shift of how can I take something that I've held on as a store of value, bring it into an application and earn off of it, whether it's through staking or DeFi or otherwise. There's just so many questions in that value chain, and we have to do a lot of education around that. One. Two, just again, the experience that we've all continued to talk about time and time again, making it 1, 2, 3 click easy for the average user, not just for those that are technical as well. Also native stablecoin support as well, seeing USDC or USDT in and active within the Bitcoin ecosystem. And then the other is just to Yago's point on Ethereum, kind of sitting in the middle or a little bit behind, is a lot of this industry has been built for Ethereum and EVMs. It has not yet fully come to the Bitcoin ecosystem. And there's a little bit of catch up that needs to be done, whether that be bridges, whether that be wallets or others.
But it's exactly that catch up which I think makes me feel like there are no limits, right? I think in any growth environment, there's like new opportunities open up. There's suddenly this opportunity for everyone to sort of feast until you saturate the sort of new market, and then hard limits start to assert themselves. Like, okay, you've reached the limit of your current scalability, if you reached the limit of the current technology. I think we're in a really interesting point from Bitcoin specifically, is that so much infrastructure has been built out on Ethereum and in other places that is now for the first time applicable to Bitcoin. That it's just like this it's like we've discovered a new continent and we can run wild, and it's going to be quite a while. Like, I don't see anything close on the horizon before we start hitting natural saturation points, and where we need to like figure out, okay, how do we overcome a bottleneck? There are no bottlenecks right now.
Well, and also like the saturation point can be 4x less compared to Ethereum, at least for staking, right? And be the exact same value in terms of like, opportunity size. I think like 28% of ETH is staked currently. That number has been like fairly the same for the past year. If you cut that by 4, right, it's still almost around $100 billion and opportunity from a staking perspective, which also can now be leveraged on other places. So yeah, I mean you actually just have to do like 4x.
Well, I mean, just
than Ethereum.
Just as you guys like Babylon are a perfect example of what I mean by this, right? You opened up the ability for, like, you open up new staking opportunities for one day. You'd set 2 billion as the limit that you would allow in new staking opportunities, and before the day was over, that 2 billion had been fully allocated.
It was only 10 blocks.
It was 10 blocks exactly. It was an hour and a half. This is very, very unusual, right? Like, you don't see an influx of $2 billion in an hour and a half. Certainly not on Bitcoin, right? So it's just like we're not even close to touching the saturation points yet.
Yeah.
I think that. Sorry, Matt.
Go ahead.
I think there simply exists a inertia of the mindset that Bitcoin is not super DeFi, right? The proof of stake, because I think if you think about it, staking the action of staking alone doesn't generate value. It's just not. It's not like automatic. You stake something, you get value back. And the reason why it does, provide value in most cases is because, there are applications around it, right? For example, Ethereum natively supports it, right? Bitcoin doesn't. And Bitcoin doesn't even support POS yet. right? So I think the mindset needs to. There's going to be a growing shift of consensus, right? Once we have more staking applications on Bitcoin, once people start to see the yield, right? Most users, they stake because they want to be rewarded for their activity of staking or providing the liquidity, right? Once they start to see that, once people start to get this consensus, oh, actually Bitcoin can be used to, generate use by staking somewhere, then I think once we get to a convection point where more people think this is normal than the other way around, then we'll be there, right? Because I think to everyone's point, if you look at the number in Bitcoin, there's like let's say 20 million in circulation right now. If you look at the ones that are in high liquidity among central exchanges and whatnot, that's like less than 4 million. That's like 20%. And in terms of distribution, 55%, I believe, of Bitcoin sits in individual wallets. They're sitting there doing nothing. Of course, there's some of them because they're just OG holders. They just hold it since they were like $100. But still, like for a lot of like new wallets, new holders, right, who came from a crypto background, who know about all the potential applications that can be done with crypto, they want to see applications. They want to see the potential to use them. And I think this speaks to the reason why Babylon, the phase one, they ran out so fast, right?
Yeah,
People think that
I have some of those wallets that haven't moved in 13 years, and I can tell you now, for the first time ever, I'm like going through my cupboard looking to go on my wallet and figure out where I'm going to start using those coins, because I've been looking for opportunities where I could utilize BTC without having to go through a trusted intermediary. It's like the first sentence of the white paper, right? Is let's get rid of the trusted intermediaries. We finally can. And so I think, it's not just me. A lot of people like me are going to be moving their coins for the first time in a decade.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, and this is my personal take on like the ranges of where staking can go, right? Like if we agree that most Bitcoin is conservative and doesn't want to be used, which none of us like think is true, but like then maybe 5% of Bitcoin gets staked over time, right? Which is still significant. On the other side, right? Like if you do have someone who's like, I want to hold this for 10 years no matter what, I am totally down to stake it for 0.2%, right? Because I'm not going to touch it anyway. And so that number could theoretically be, higher than Ethereum, right? Because it's held as a store of value much more than Ethereum, where like Ethereum has a lot more usability, at least on like execution layer environments now compared to Bitcoin, to where even just the culture around Bitcoin will maybe keep it locked up weirdly. But at the same time, it's like, that's the point.
Yeah, fully agree. And I'm getting sense that we need to wrap it up here. But I think a good summary is, even though we are at all-time highs, we're just discovering a new continent, as Iago put it. And I encourage everyone to look deep into the Bitcoin and spend a lot of time here, because there's so much things to build and many things to come. Thank you all for being on the panel here today.
Thank you.